Hey everybody, Tony D with another hot take. This one, I guess it's a Hollywoke hot take, maybe, kinda. But this one's about Velma on Scooby-Doo. Apparently, they've come out with some kind of statement that she's out and proud and lesbian, which was always sort of a joke about Scooby-Doo. But, you have to understand, Scooby-Doo's really old. Like, the cartoon, I think, goes back to I think 69 or late 60s, maybe 67, Hanna-Barbera. And I am old enough to remember watching the reruns of the original, and I loved it. I love Scooby-Doo. But the thing is, it was never sexualized. It wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be about the characters themselves. It was always about the mystery. And it's just a fun kids cartoon. If you watch the very early episodes, you could see them, Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Shaggy in a soda pop place. What do they call? Soda hop or whatever? I don't know. Real old school place to get a soda and dance with jukebox music, and they actually had that in one episode. And Shaggy was dancing with Velma, and Freddie was dancing with Daphne. So the implication was that they were two couples, but even that didn't matter. It was just that they were friends, and they drove around in a van and they solved mysteries. That was it. That was it. That was the extent of the show. And later they'd imply there was this joke where it was like, well, they're always getting high because, especially Shaggy, because he's kind of a beatnik, and he's always got the munchies, and him and Scoob, and Scoob's got a little scruff too. If you ever look close enough in the cartoon, they design him with a little bit of something, because he's Shaggy's dog, he's kind of like him, and that's why they're always eating. They're both, the implication, and they actually did this on Adult Swim, the implication is they're always getting high in the van, but just like pot, right? So, the cartoon itself is just meant to be a fun cartoon. And these days, entertainment, especially a big worldwide sort of trademark like Scooby-Doo, it's too important. It's so important that they can't do any of the fun, creative stuff they did when they created this stuff, right? When Scooby-Doo was first created, it was just a kids' cartoon. It wasn't meant to be anything other than that. It wasn't considered important. It wasn't considered anything other than, oh, you plop your kids down in front of the TV on a Saturday morning and then you forget about them for a few hours. That was it. And no adult watched it because no adult would watch it. No adult would care. But now the trademark's been around so long, we're talking, almost 50 years, over 50 years, and it's gone through different iterations. It's had live action movies. It's like, at this point, who cares? It's time, it's overtime for a lot of these trademarks to either be put out to pasture or to allow creators to actually do something with them, to do something fun. And like the Adult Swim guys, like I said, come here, Joe. Speaking of Scooby-Doo, here's my little Scooby-Doo. We'll solve mysteries, Joan. The Adult Swim guys, they had some fun with Scooby. They did some stuff with Shaggy and in some. They weren't even cartoons. They were like little sides between the cartoons. At the Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. But, even that is late in the run, it's late in the game. It's not meant to be taken seriously. None of this stuff is meant, it's cartoons. They're not meant to be taken all that seriously. It's not a serious cartoon, it's a comedy show, really, But they take it too seriously, They do these movies and these big things because it's all about money at the end of the day. It's all about some executive, throwing his weight around or her weight around trying to say, well, I know how to make some real money on this brand. That's all it is. They're not thinking about the kids. They're not thinking about the fun these kids could have watching this cartoon. Because at the end of the day, kids don't watch TV like they used to. They don't watch movies like they used to. If they wanted to do something for real kids with Scooby-Doo, they'd make a little phone game. And I'm sure they have, but you know, they'd release a really cool phone game for Scooby-Doo, or they'd do something, you know, internet related that was about 2 minutes a day or something. That's the kind of stuff kids watch now. They don't sit down and watch cartoons on a Saturday morning anymore. They don't go to the movies really anymore. It's not the same thing. So, you know, do I care if Velma's outed or not outed? No. Who cares? The character is not the character I grew up with. That character's way in the past. Even the voice actors have passed on at this point. Some of them. You know, and if they're not having fun with it, I don't care. I don't care. You know, if you want to ruin my childhood, I'm not going to pay you to watch that. And I'm certainly wouldn't let, if I had kids, I wouldn't let my kids watch that. I would say, watch what you like. Don't watch what I watched as a kid, because that's not what I watched as a kid. And even if I showed you the original cartoons, they'd probably be so old to you, you wouldn't even get it. You'd see payphones and, you know, soda hops and jukeboxes, and they'd be like, what is all that? And I'd have to explain it all. I'd have to explain it, why they're driving around in a van solving mysteries, how old these guys are. Are they 18? Are they still in high school? Are they in college? What are they doing? Why are they driving around a van solving mysteries? Why does their dog talk? Like, it's not relatable to them anymore. And to keep doing all these iterations, it's never gonna be relatable. It wasn't even relatable to me at the time. I was too young to understand, you know, what a bunch of hippies driving in a van meant. It wasn't until later I kind of got the context. So just leave Scooby-Doo alone. And if you're going to redo it, well, you know, let some real creatives just have their way with it. And if they F it up, they F it up, or whatever. But this constant rebranding of stuff, you know, I'd prefer to see something new. To see something new from these supposed studios and creative houses. But they don't want to take a risk on anything new anymore. They'd rather run old stuff into the ground, because that's guaranteed money. And unfortunately, I think a lot of these studios are just run by lawyers and business people, and that's all they want. They want guaranteed money. It's not about the product. It's not about the creativity. It's certainly not about the fans. It's about how much more money can we squeeze out of this before we put it back up on the shelf for another 10 years. And that's the sad thing. If maybe if they revamp the copyright law so some of these creations went into the public view, you know, maybe they disappear, or maybe they get revitalized by somebody who truly understood them, by somebody who really would watch the old cartoons and get inspired and say, you know what, I'm going to continue this just the way it was, or I'm going to go off the deep end with something crazy to explain this. You know, the Venture Brothers did a parody of the Scooby-Doo gang. If you've never seen it, that's a good one. That was inspired. But anyhow, Velma's out and proud. Just thought you should know.